Hi, everyone. Harry here to talk about some really interesting reporting, mainly in the Wall Street Journal, about the law firms, the 8 or so that knuckled under and kowtowed to the Trump administration and agreed to a deal. And it's now turning out it wasn't so smart. So what we're learning is that those very firms are themselves being abandoned by big clients, the very thing they were fearing when they actually decided to capitulate, but it has backfired because these big, and we're talking big clients, big multi-million dollar clients, the very clients they had in mind, are coming in and saying, we want a law firm, with that we can trust when the chips are down to be fighting for us. And you guys are weenies, in capitulating to the administration. The cases that the firms get really top dollar for, and I've been involved in some of them, are so-called bet the company cases, where you're the company or the general counsel for the company, and you expect the firms to be completely dedicated to you, even, setting aside whatever might be their own parochial interests, like they're supposed to work 24/7, and, they are absolutely solid because you're in the arena for a fight to the death. And you want lawyers that, besides having all the professional qualifications, have all the sort of psychological or, just character qualifications to be completely with you. And that's why you pay them top dollar. So these firms are now finding that some really big clients are taking their business elsewhere, including to the firms that, in fact, we now have 3 different courts that have upheld claims of firms or struck down the administration's orders and deals as violations of the First Amendment and the Due Process Clause. Those claims are going to prevail. Now, some firms have said, yeah, they're going to prevail, but we'll still get hurt. So, where do we sign, Mr. President? It's turning out to be stupid. And it's a very good thing that it's turning out to be stupid, because it's just critical. We're learning this across different industries. There's also Trump going after the media and going after universities, especially Harvard University, that it's so critical to sort of stand or fall together. And we're now seeing signal anecdotes of the firms who thought they reluctantly had to sign, and it turned out to be stupid and craven. So they're losing big clients. In some cases, they've lost big lawyers. 4 of the biggest and most profitable partners at Paul Weiss left to start their own firm. They're losing their lifeblood, they're having inroads on it, which is their recruiting of young people. They're finding that some people don't want to go to them, those firms in particular, anymore. There's even been some schools that said, nah, we really don't want you to come and interview and stuff. Our students aren't interested in you. They are generally finding that they've attracted the opprobrium of the entire legal industry. So and they're also finding, of course, that guess what? You can sign on the dotted line, and that's the beginning of the torture, not the end of it. There's still, these vague, amorphous agreements, if they're even that, and they're not even enforceable agreements in the sense that they're not spelled out sufficiently, et cetera. But it doesn't matter, because there's Trump behind them to be now saying things like, give us your pro bono services and make your associates and others who do pro bono on this or that issue that your lawyers are going to revile. And we don't care. You have to do it anyway. And, whatever they thought they could do to sort of staunch the flow of the blood, the damage, once they sign, turns out, of course, not to be true. Once you actually bend and kiss the ring of Trump. There's no getting up. You are now in his thrall. So they're really getting clobbered on, many angles, most particularly the very one that is most important and they thought they could elude, namely business and the big litigation or other matters with really important, lucrative clients. And look, I've got no contempt for the firms. They are all businesses. I understand that. But nevertheless, this is a really good thing because the showing that these are really ill-advised and much worse in the balance of good and evil kind of arrangements is really good because it will make others, A, not sign too readily, and B, link together with the firms that have said, no, we're not going to play ball with you this way, Trump. And that linking together is so important in order to be able to repel this unconstitutional, nasty, politically over the top, benighted in the sense that, Trump thinks that these firms are all outposts of illegal wokeism and the like. And so he's doing it for, well, if that's really the authentic reason. So everything about him is bad, and everything about resisting, I think, is probably good. And this makes, resistance more likely and just exposes the firms for, what they are. They're capitulators. And in the juncture in which we find ourselves, it's important to call out quislings and important to call out people who stay steadfast, even though, and there's no doubt here, this is the sort of bottom line with the universities as well. There's a cost. If you tell Trump, no, we're not playing ball with you, and you sue him and you win, there's still going to be ways. There'll be some clients who say, I know they won, but that makes Trump all the madder, and we want the federal government to, not start out slanted against us, which of course they shouldn't do. It should all be irrelevant. But this is the corrupt administration that is, part of the landscape for the next few years. They're gonna take a punch, but it would be much more to the extent they just sign on to the corrupt deal that Trump has, the offer you can't refuse. So they thought presented to them. And so this, I think, kind of reporting, and the legal industry is a beehive of sort of cross gossip and, quick sort of checking out what the competitors are doing, I think can only help engage more resistance, a lot more law firms out there. 500 firms signed onto a brief written by a very prominent lawyer against what the administration were doing. So it's a cottage industry still within the White House, and we want that injury to be bankrupt and shut down for the good of the republic. So the law firms that do right and do good are, hopefully, it's much more clear now than it was in the very tense initial days when Trump was going around trying to slap the firms into shape. It's much clearer now that this is a bad deal. Stay away. Join with other law firms in resisting, and you'll keep the big clients, or by and large you will, and otherwise come out on the other side. Whereas if you don't, you're going to take a hit with clients, with associates, with the work you do, with work satisfaction of the people who remain and the like. And so the calculus ought to be clear. Stay away from the deals with the devil. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.